Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about, and this is about how we're all working together now in connected teams. And what I'd say is, there seems to be this huge schizophrenia with how we deal with information in our personal lives versus how we deal with information in our professional lives. So, in our personal lives, it looks like this. We know everything. We actually probably know too much. You know when your neighbor's kid scored a goal in soccer, and you know it within 10 minutes of when it actually happened. You know, whether it's through Twitter or Facebook or any of the other ways, what we know is we have up-to-date information about the things around us in our personal lives. But our professional lives are a little bit different. You know, we use things like PDM systems, we use email, we use asynchronous communication. Doesn't provide a lot of context. We're kind of out of the loop on it. And many of the tools that we see amongst customers are of this older generation. But if you look at the next generation of tools, what the next generation of tools is doing is they're working in the background. They're indexing and organizing your information. They're trying to provide that same level of context and relevance for your professional information that you have for your personal information. Here's just a handful of examples that I use. You know, whether it's Google Docs or GitHub or Twitter, those are all examples of things that I use to stay up to date. It gives me context, and it enables me to understand better what's going on. So here's what we did with our Fusion 360 product. We tied it to Autodesk 360, which was a hub so that people could understand what was going on their project. The idea was to try to understand, in that same way that you can understand with Facebook or anything else, what's going on. So one is that there's an activity stream, so you get up-to-date information. You have kind of persistent awareness of what's happening on the project. It also provides you with the context to understand decisions. And it gives you kind of the ability to look ahead and see where potential problems are. And so what we wanted to have happen here is that rather than the way it works today, where data management is an afterthought, it's something you do afterwards. And by the way, I said, I don't know any engineer who became an engineer in order to run a data management system. I don't know any engineer who became an engineer to run a PLM system. What this does is this just puts it as part of the work. The idea is let's make it part of the work, so as you're using the tools, you're already creating context, you're creating activity, and you're creating awareness amongst all the participants. Now the next thing we did is we said the same thing about PLM. This is not an afterthought, it's not something that needs to be done later. It needs to be done as part of the process of designing and engineering. Maybe it doesn't. Oh, yeah. So there it is. So this was what we wanted to do, and I've been quite outspoken in the past about PLM being an old-fashioned technology, that having PLM systems behind firewalls is a thing of the past, just as we're seeing in other parts of the business, whether it's what's happening with desktop software with Google Docs, or if you look at companies like Salesforce.com, or Workday versus Siebel, or NetSuite, there's a new generation of tools being formed. What we saw with PLM is that same opportunity. We saw the opportunity to develop a cloud-based PLM system that replaced traditional PLM systems behind the firewall, expensive to implement. If I go to one more customer who tells me they spent $10 million in order to get new product introduction working, or engineering change orders working, or their bill of materials, I think I'll shoot myself. It seems like such a ridiculous use of money, and there are so many better technologies in order to do this. So we built this, we introduced it in the end of February of last year, so it's been in the market for about a year, and it's the fastest growing PLM system in history. And why I think it is growing so quickly is that fundamentally we chose a different underlying architecture and a different way to deploy it.